Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. It's Monday, so Dr. Cornel West kicks us off in hour 2 with his take on a number of trending topics, including, of course, ICE killing yet another fellow citizen in Minneapolis. On the B side of our 2, award-winning scientist Dr. Ainissa Ramirez honors the life and legacy of the hidden figure, the pioneering African-American mathematician Gladys West, who recently passed away at age 95. It was the work, listen to this, it was the work of Gladys West that paved the way for the GPS system that you might be using right now as you drive, listening to this program. Yes, a black woman, Gladys West, is behind the GPS system we're using every day. In our third hour, speaking of science, a conversation with award-winning science communicator and researcher Beronda Montgomery, who takes us inside her new text. It's called When Trees Testify. I love that title. When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. The history of trees in America are also the histories of black Americans. Pecan trees, or pecan if you prefer, were domesticated by an enslaved African named Antoine. Sycamore trees were both a haven and signpost for folk trying to escape enslavement. Poplar trees, as we all know, are associated with lynching, and willow bark has offered the gift of medicine. We will talk black history and botanical mastery in our final hour today with Beronda Montgomery. But in this first hour, let's talk politics and more with Shermichael Singleton, CNN contributor and co-founder of the We the Free television streaming network. Before I get Shermichael on, we start with the obvious today, the killing of yet another precious citizen in Minneapolis named Alex Preddy. Now, everything about this killing is wrong. First of all, it's just wrong on general principle. But everything about it is wrong, including the weapon he was carrying that he was licensed to carry. We'll get into that, including that he worked at the VA, so he's working at a military institution as a nurse. You see where I'm going with this. All the issues that the right likes to tamp up, likes to frame as they do. Impacts this particular story. So everything about this is wrong. Put a pin in that. I'll get to that and unpack that a little bit more in a second. But here again, the administration is doubling down on this. So I'm going to play 2 clips before I get Shermichael on. I'll let him run the rest of the hour. The first clip is from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Take a listen to what she had to say.
This individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officers. They responded according to their training and took action to defend the officer's life and those of the public around him. And I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
So first of all, that's a lie. He didn't pull out the weapon. He didn't use it to assault officers. And so where are we on this Second Amendment debate? That's what I said earlier I would get back to. Are we carrying concealed weapons or are we not? Do we have a right to carry or do we not? And if you have a right to carry, does carrying automatically make you a target just because you're carrying, even though you're carrying lawfully and you didn't pull it on anybody? Put a pin in that for a second. We'll come back to that. But this Second Amendment debate is getting crazy now. So either we can carry or we can't. Hold on to that thought. This now is U.S. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino. Take a listen to him.
It looked to us from every angle, sir, that he was approached by them when he was helping another individual who was pushed down. What evidence do you have that he was assaulting any law enforcement?
Dana, we don't need a suspect's help in an active law enforcement scene.
When you say suspect, what is he suspected of?
That's an active law enforcement scene. He knew that was an active law enforcement scene, especially when the officers approached him, and it's very evident he did not need to be where he was.
When somebody is pushed down and a person's instinct is to help that person, when somebody's pushed down by law enforcement, you're saying that you just stand back and let law enforcement do what they're doing?
You know, Dana, every situation is different. What our officers are faced with here in Minneapolis are chaotic, very difficult and violent situations in which individuals, and this suspect is not the only one to bring a loaded weapon to a riot. The situations are chaotic and ever-changing. Follow directions for law enforcement. Don't inject yourself knowingly beforehand into a law enforcement situation.
With respect, it feels as though in some ways you're blaming the victim here.
The victims are the Border Patrol agents. I'm not blaming the Border Patrol agents. The victim are the Border Patrol agents. The suspect put himself in that situation. The victims are the Border Patrol agents there.
I just want to also go back to what I was asking about with regard to what Secretary Noem said, that he was brandishing a gun. At any point, do you have any evidence that, yes, he had a gun on his person? Was he brandishing it?
We heard the law enforcement officer say gun, gun, gun. So at some point, they knew there was a gun. So again, that is going to be part of that investigation as to what was happening on the ground there between those victims, the Border Patrol agent victims, and the suspect.
You see, even Second Amendment enthusiasts are scratching their heads today. Not just scratching their heads, they're outraged. Because if the argument now is that just because you have a gun, even though you're licensed to carry, that makes you subject to being shot and killed by law enforcement, we got a problem. This whole Second Amendment debate has been turned on its head now. We'll come back to that and a great deal more, but that line that the ICE agents are the victims, are you serious? You can't be serious here. Shermichael Singleton for the hour when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on! Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live, free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks VapoStick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors when you need more comfort for yourself. Use as directed.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Shermichael Singleton, conservative CNN contributor, co-founder of We the Free TV streaming network. Always honored to be in conversation with him. And I didn't know all this is going to go down over the last few days when we booked him today, but nobody better to have on than one whose perspective on some of these issues is different than mine, because there are many who believe that this particular moment is an inflection point in a number of debates. And so I'm pleased to welcome Shermichael Singleton back to this program. Shermichael, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Tavis, I am doing well. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, man. Let me just jump right in and make the most of the time we have, because I want to play another one or two clips as we move through this hour. But let me just start broadly with how you are processing what happened. We'll get into these debates, and I specifically, as I said, want to talk about whether or not this really is an inflection point. A number of persons are referring to it in that regard. I want to walk through why it may I got 5 or 6 reasons right quick why it may be an inflection point. And I want to take your temperature on my 5 or 6 ideas about why it may be. But I've lived long enough to have seen this before. Something happens, they call it an inflection point, and before you know it, we're back to business as usual. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You and I can debate that in a moment, but let me just stand down for a second and give you, I played the clips, you've heard them. Just give me a sense of how you are seeing what went down with regard to the shooting, the murder, frankly, of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. ICE has done it again, Shermichael.
Yeah, so before I give my thoughts, your statement about is it an inflection point, I'd probably say potentially yes, and here's why. I don't know if you just saw this breaking news, but Caitlin Collins, who's a host at CNN where I work, just posted out a screenshot of Trump saying that he and Tim Walz just spoke. Tim Walz requested that Tom Homan go to Minneapolis instead of the other officials, and they're going to try to figure out a way to work this out. That tells you that the president is clearly looking at the polls. The numbers are switching in a not so favorable direction for the White House and for Republicans more broadly speaking. You have midterms coming up in a couple of months. First early voting will start in end of July, early August. So in that regard, I would say that is evidence that there is certainly some type of an inflection point. Now, where does it go? I have no clue. But that's an indicator, I would say.
Let me jump in right quick before you go forward. Here's the part about I did see that. Here's what scares me. Tom Homan has said more outrageous stuff about immigration than anybody in this administration. I mean, so I hear your point that it's escalated that somebody right next to Donald Trump in the White House has been asked to go to Minneapolis, but the guy they're sending is absolutely the most rabid individual they could send when it comes to any conversation about immigration. Just Google Tom Homan and read some of the comments he's made about immigration. I ain't got time to get into that now. Continue, Shermichael Singleton.
That's a fair point, but I guess my pushback, respectfully, would be that this is someone who's also served under a Democratic administration. Now, look, Barack Obama has gotten a lot of pushback on how his administration handled immigration.
That's right.
I don't agree with that pushback, but I do know that sensible people have said, well, okay, that's he was not, the poster child for how they would view properly handling immigration in the country, and that's fair. I would just view it. I just view it a little differently.
Fair enough.
That said, my big concern here, as a firearms guy, I have 2 companies in this space. I spend a lot of my time in the firearms industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen a lot of remarks coming from the administration saying that you cannot carry a firearm at a protest, that if you do so, that it automatically means that you're some type of a terrorist or that you're going to, move forward with massive carnage. I think I've seen some people assert. I don't agree with that. We have a right to carry firearms in this country. Now, look, a lot of my friends on the other side have wanted to limit some of those rights. I have very serious concerns about that. I do not agree with that at all, considering the history of our country. I think you have to allow people to carry a gun. Now, I do believe you should be trained, but I am not of the mindset that you should limit that right. I've seen some people say, well, he had an extra magazine. I carry a weapon every single day. Usually I carry 2 magazines, depending on the gun that I'm carrying that day. That's not an uncommon thing. That alone does not mean someone is going to shoot a bunch of people, let alone shoot law enforcement. Look, I saw the videos like everybody else. I didn't see this gentleman reach for his firearm. Now, I do know when the agents was attempting to detain him, one officer removed a gun, another officer yelled, he has a gun, another officer shot. So I don't know in that 2-3 split second moment what one officer saw versus the other. But what I do know is that the gun was removed. Now, did every officer see that? I don't know. So then that becomes a question of training and how they should detain individuals who are video recording them. And that's a discussion that I frankly think needs to happen. But this notion that people carrying a firearm on their person automatically means that they're guilty of some type of crime or that they're going to attempt to cause a crime. I just don't agree with that. I think you got to be very careful here with preserving people's right to carry. And you have a lot of people making comments that I would personally believe are in violation of the Second Amendment and comments that, in my opinion, would lead people to believe that you have no right to carry a firearm anytime you're around a law enforcement. That's just not true. I mean, it's just not true by any of the laws we have in this country, Tavis. And that's why you've seen very conservative gun rights groups coming out and saying, wait a minute here. You know, it's one thing to go after people who are in the country illegally. But when you start saying that people don't have the right to carry who are U.S. citizens and they're lawfully carrying, that's wrong. Then you've seen people say, well, he didn't have his ID on him. Okay, that's a fair thing to point out. He didn't have his ID. By Minnesota laws, that's a misdemeanor, Tavis, that where you would get a fine. The laws also state that if the person goes to trial or before a judge and shows by proof that they actually had a concealed carry at the time that the fine was given, then Minnesota law states that has to be dismissed. So that alone is not enough for someone to be murdered, and that's where I have a big issue with this.
So here's my question. First of all, you put a nice you underscored this, and I want to just double click it again, and that is that Alex Preddy he's dead now, was a U.S. citizen. Renee Good was a U.S. citizen. This conversation ostensibly is about immigration and the illegals who are in our country. They're in Minneapolis because it started with the conversation about the Somalis, who Trump called garbage and trash. But what's happening is that fellow citizens, not illegals, not immigrants, are being murdered in the streets of Minneapolis. They are U.S. citizens. Underline that to begin with. But secondly, and Shermichael, I'm going to message you just a second. I'm doing it in love. You kept saying,
of course,
people are saying. No. Let's say who those people are. This is Kristi Noem. This is the Secretary of Homeland Security. She ain't just people.
No. When I say people, there have been multiple people.
Oh, I got it, but I get
not just her.
I get it. But I'm putting a finer point on who's actually making these statements. These are officers of the government. This is Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. This is Greg Bovino, U.S. Border Patrol Commander. When persons of that stature start making the argument that troubles you and frankly troubles me, I am not a gun enthusiast as you are. That's okay. But I do believe that we got to play by the same set of rules. I do believe you can't change the rules to make an argument that is convenient for you when you get caught killing somebody and the tape suggests that you were wrong in their murder. So my question is, what do I do with the fact that a Republican administration is now telling me that if I carry a concealed weapon for which I have a license, that somehow I'm a terrorist? I mean, that impacts you. It impacts every single one of us, Shermichael. How do I take those kinds of pronouncements?
Well, I think you take it by, again, I'll go back to the gun rights organizations, which, again, you probably wouldn't typically be in agreement with them because they are relatively conservative as it pertains to the Second Amendment. But you've had these organizations coming out against the administration on this. Several of these organizations have actually filed suits against Trump during his first administration over some things that they viewed as violation of the Second Amendment. I typically agree with some of those lawsuits. They actually won them in court. And so these are organizations that have had no problem challenging even Republicans when they believe that Republicans are in violation of the Second Amendment. Like, this isn't a Republican or Democratic thing. The Second Amendment does not distinguish one versus the other. It's for all Americans, even if I don't agree with or didn't agree with Mr. Petty's politics. I am absolutely going to stand for his right to carry a firearm. I just feel very, very strongly about that, Tavis. Mm-hmm. This is not a left or right thing for me. Mm-hmm. This is about protecting and preserving a right that's for everybody who's a United States citizen. Point blank, period. That's where the discussion ends for me. Now, we can debate about the politics and immigration. I'm all okay with that.
Right.
But you cannot violate people's rights to carry. I just feel really, really strongly about that. And I think for people of color, we should know better than anybody what it means to have that right violated. There is a reason why in the South, for a long time, they did not want black people to have a gun because it is the means to protect yourself, one, but it's the means to also check a government that may go too freaking far.
Yeah. Well,
that's important for everybody.
I've said more times than I can count, so I'm not new to this subject. I've said for 20, 30 years that if you want to solve the gun crisis and this problem, there's one simple solution. I can fix this for you right now. Give every Negro in America a gun, and the problem is solved. If law enforcement knows that everybody has a gun, they're going to think twice about what they do. If they know that everybody is carrying. And so I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but I also mean that sincerely. And I think what we see... And
by the way, Tavis, can I just jump in?
Sure.
I've seen on social media, and there really is a big divide on this, even on the conservative side. You have obviously some just political social media folks that are giving their opinions. Then you have the folks who are in the gun rights space who are just saying, you are getting this wrong. I've seen some people say, on social media, Republicans, say, oh, well, he should have notified the police officers that he had a firearm. Well, that's not exactly the case. That's something called duty to inform laws. Well, in his state, that's not the case. And so what that means is if an officer, for example, were to pull you over, I'll use this as an example, and they say, well, hey, Mr. Singleton, are you carrying a firearm? In the state of Virginia, if they were to ask, I have to notify them. That's a duty to inform. But if they don't ask, you're under no obligation to say that you're carrying concealed on your person. Yeah. Now, you can get into, well, maybe you should in case things escalate. That's a very different conversation. But as it pertains to the law, that's another important distinguishing factor that people should be clear on. So when someone says, well, he should have told, he wasn't obligated under the law to state that.
And this narrative continues to unravel on the Trump administration every single day. I'm reading right now a physician's sworn affidavit, which, again, helps to destroy this Trump narrative. The physician says he ran to the scene. This is an affidavit. It's posted everywhere now. You can find it for yourself online. He ran to the scene, identified himself as a doctor, and begged to help Alex Preddy. ICE agents blocked him, demanded a physician's license. Speaking of license, now they want the physician to prove with a license who walks around with that he's a physician, right? And they still at that time were not performing CPR. When the physician finally got through, he found Preddy on his side with multiple gunshot wounds in his back and started CPR himself. So that's the story. They shot Alex Preddy, and then they wouldn't let a doctor treat him on site. That's it for now, but more when we come forward. You're listening to Shermichael Singleton on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, But what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized. The families who watched their inheritance disappear. The wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. With a mix of heavy snowfall, gusty winds, and freezing rain expected through this afternoon, New York City Mayor Mamdani is urging residents to stay inside. He says the storm is not only bringing snow with it.
It carries temperatures colder than any sustained period this city has experienced for 8 years. For those without shelter, the intense cold can be fatal.
Mamdani said at least 5 New Yorkers have passed away. Barack and Michelle Obama released a joint statement regarding the killing of Alex Preddy. The Obamas said Preddy's death should be a wake-up call to every American. The former president and first lady said political parties aside, the nation's core values are under assault. And tax season is here. The IRS will start accepting tax returns today. The deadline is April 15th. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The road to the Super Bowl for the Rams ended in Seattle. A shaky performance by the Rams defense was a major factor in the Rams' 31-27 loss in the NFC Championship game. The Rams gave up 346 yards passing and 3 touchdown passes to Seattle quarterback Sam Darnold. Darnold also helped Seattle make 7 of 13 third down conversions. The Rams defense couldn't get off the field when they needed to. It was also a shaky day for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford was 0 for 7 on 3rd and 4th down pass attempts. The Clippers keep winning. They beat Brooklyn 126-89 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Brooklyn's 89 points is the fewest allowed by the Clippers this season. 28 points for Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers are now just 3 games below 500. They are 15-3 since December 20th. The Lakers are at Chicago tonight, 4th game of an 8-game road trip. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
LADWP customers get rebates up to $4,000 when you buy a used electric or hybrid vehicle. Installing an EV charger at your home? Get a rebate for that too, up to $1,500. Visit ladwp.com/EV today and start saving. That's ladwp.com/EV.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley, who always appreciates the insights of Shermichael Singleton, conservative CNN contributor, co-founder of We the Free TV streaming network. Delighted to have him on to kick us off today here in Hour 1. Dr. West coming up at the top of Hour 2. Going to be a great show all the way through. So you heard me suggest a moment ago that there was a doctor, not suggest, but say, in fact, with evidence. A doctor was on the scene and rushed to help Mr. Preddy, was denied the opportunity to help him by those ICE agents. Keep in mind that Mr. Preddy himself is a nurse. He is a nurse at a VA hospital, so he's working to help military vets every single day. He himself is a first responder. But when a first responder rushed to his side, that first responder was denied access to help Mr. Preddy. Put a pin in that for a second. So you deny a physician attempting to help Mr. Preddy, and then we are told once again that the administration is denying the state of Minnesota from doing its due diligence, if I can say it, to get evidence for their state investigation. Don't believe me? Listen to AG Keith Ellison. Here he is.
So let me just note that Superintendent Drew Evans of the BCA, another exemplary professional in our state, he is the BCA is the state's investigative agency, and it is their job to investigate crime. They have a specialized unit to investigate the use of force cases. They arrived on site after the shooting and were refused access. They then secured a judicial warrant, a warrant signed by a judge, which has never been needed before, and were still refused access. This is uncharted territory. Now, friends, this comes at the tail end of other offenses, like a shooting in North Minneapolis and another homicide in South Minneapolis, Renee Nicole Good, where they also were denied access to the scene, and investigators are, to this moment, still being denied access to the investigative file. This is not a rash decision for us to go to court and to seek a temporary restraining order from a judge to preserve evidence and prevent the destruction of evidence. I don't care if you're conservative, liberal, or whatever, but you should at least be in favor of conserving evidence in a homicide. And to have to go get an order from a judge to preserve that evidence is extraordinary and should alarm everyone who believes in equal justice under the law.
That's AG Keith Ellison in Minnesota, a frequent guest on this program. And you heard him really echoing the point that Shermichael said earlier. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. We are watching America unravel in Minneapolis in front of our eyes. We are watching America unravel in front of our eyes in Minneapolis. Now, let me just offer you very quickly 4 or 5 points why this may very well be an inflection point. I said earlier, I ain't stuck on stupid. I am not naive. I've been through this more times than I can count, where people thought we were at an inflection point and something was going to happen. We thought Columbine was an inflection point. We thought the murder of George Floyd was an inflection point. We thought Sandy Hook was an inflection point. We thought Rodney King was an inflection point. We thought Trayvon don't get me started. I've been at this for 30 plus years. I've seen all these so-called inflection points that turned into nothing. But there are folk who believe and are sensing something a little different in this particular moment because, again, part of what they're feeling and sensing is that the right now is flipping its own narrative. So now you can't carry a concealed weapon? Okay. So these are my 4 or 5 reasons right quick, Shermichael, why I think this may be an inflection point. I could be wrong, but let me run them past you right quick and get your take on it. One, there's a crisis of credibility here that we haven't seen in a while. There is a stark documented contradiction between the official narrative and bystander video. Not the first time we've seen a difference between the official narrative and bystander video, but everybody's watching it. We see it now, just like we saw in the case of the murder of George Floyd. Number two, is a state versus federal confrontation. You just heard Keith Ellison talking about that. I think that makes this potentially an inflection point. There is an escalation of tactics, obviously. The second fatal shooting of a U.S. citizen by a federal immigration agent in Minneapolis. Not to mention, there are about 6 people, I just read this last night, there are at least 6 persons who have died in ICE custody. So they arrest these people, they put them in custody. At least 6 people have died over the last few weeks in ICE custody. We're talking about Renee Good, as we should, Alex Preddy, as we should, but there are people dying in prison in ICE custody. Let's not leave that out of the conversation. Maybe that makes this an inflection point. There are now legislative ultimatums. Chuck Schumer has said Democrats will not vote for a spending package that includes more DHS funding if there isn't a full investigation and a change in what he calls Metro Surge operations. So you got legislators now throwing down on this. They referred to Mr. Preddy as a domestic terrorist. You heard Shermichael sound off on that early. How can you be called a domestic terrorist for exercising your Second Amendment rights? There are state and local officials who are pushing back on this unconscionable act of violence. You hear Keith Ellison, you've heard Tim Walz and others. So you got all kinds of officials now saying this has gone too far. And finally, there are bodies, even international bodies. In New Zealand, their nurses organization has expressed disgust, framing this as a human rights crisis for medical professionals. So all around the globe, people are tapping into this conversation. I digress for now. Is this, Shermichael Singleton, an inflection point?
Again, Tavis, I don't know. I really don't know. I think it depends on a number of factors. You have an election coming up. I think, at least for me, being a political person, that's probably going to be the greatest barometer in terms of assessing where a broader percent of the American people are, because in our country, when people are dissatisfied with their government, we vote for different leadership. And we haven't had elections yet. Now, if I can look at the polls, it certainly doesn't look great from my side, I'll tell you that much. And if those numbers persist, then I think, Republicans are probably going to lose the House in November. And that seems to be the general consensus of a lot of people I talk to on my side who work in politics. So if that's another indication of an inflection point, then I would certainly say it doesn't look that good for Republicans versus the other side being Democrats.
Let me ask you, what happens if and when Donald Trump and other Republicans who want to replace Donald Trump as the next president of these United States, what happens if they get on the wrong side of the NRA? Because right now, this narrative that they're running is on the wrong side of the NRA, one of the most powerful lobbies in Washington.
Well, it's not just the NRA. You've had Gun Owners of America. I mean, I have memberships with both of these organizations. I work very, very closely with both of them at the highest levels. I'll give you an example. Gun Owners of America sued the Trump administration during his first term over the bump stock ban. And they sued over the premise that you cannot ban bump stocks. It was an unlawful ban because there are indeed people who may have some type of disability who enjoy shooting, and that mechanism was created for that sole purpose. And the Trump administration lost, and they lost, in fact, by a Republican judge who ultimately ruled against them. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. They lost there as well. So it was overturned. And so these groups do have a record of challenging the administration and even Republican governors in various states when they feel that there are positions that are in violation of the Second Amendment. And a lot of Republicans who are big gun people, I should say, did not vote for Trump in 2020. He lost quite a few of them. And so this is something that I have warned Republicans about continuously. You have to be very, very careful with Republicans who are big proponents of the Second Amendment. They don't view partisan politics the way the average voter do. A lot of these folks are very strong on you will not violate my Second Amendment right, and if you do, I will not vote for you. And if this continues, then it is going to be challenging turning those people out, Tavis. A lot of them, I can just tell you politically, it took a lot of work and a lot of money convincing a lot of those folks to turn out last year, or in 2024, I should say. I know, because I was a part of those conversations. You do run the risk, if this type of messaging continues, of those people saying, you know what, we didn't want to trust these folks. Here they are again, encroaching on my Second Amendment right. I'm staying home. That is a risk.
I've said many times, sometimes folk do the right thing for the wrong reasons. My sense is in the coming days, if the administration, to Shermichael's point, continues to press this particular narrative, if this is the messaging that they stick with, high-profile Republicans are going to have to distance themselves from the president on this issue. They cannot go along with him going after the Second Amendment right as they see it. And so in the coming days, I think Republicans are going to have to split with the president and his administration on this particular issue if they keep advancing this notion that he was wrong to have been carrying a gun. And because he is carrying a weapon, even though he had a permit for it, he was carrying it lawfully and legally, they still label him a domestic terrorist. See, that dog ain't going to hunt with a bunch of Republicans in the coming days. I digress for now. Shermichael's a regular on this program. For that, I am grateful. But so is Nikema Levy-Armstrong. Did you see the way the White House altered the photo of her after they arrested her? They had her just crying. They just put an AI image of her just crying like a baby because she was arrested. And then they had to, again, take it down and acknowledge that they altered it with AI. Like, this is ridiculous. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents were sending to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, get me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm 2, they ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes. And your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs, because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Your Honor. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room, on one stage, at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up? You got to laugh the pain away.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
I made reference a moment ago to Nikemi Levy-Armstrong, one of our regular contributors on this program from Minneapolis, who was arrested by the federal government days ago and is out now, thank God. But for an administration always complaining about fake news, everything is fake news, they put out some fake news. This image of Nikema crying like a little baby all over social media they put out is absolutely not the stalwart, strong, like a tree standing by the water, I shall not be moved face that she had when they actually arrested her. Just want to put a finer point on that. They're always complaining about fake news, and here's the White House putting out AI doctored photos. That is fake news to the 10th power, but I digress. So Barack and Michelle Obama have weighed in on this. I quote from the Obamas: "It should be a wake-up call to every American, regardless of party, that many of our core values as a nation are increasingly under assault," close quote. That's Barack and Michelle Obama. They argue that our core values as a nation are increasingly under assault. The clip I played for you earlier of Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, he suggested that ICE agents are the victims in this situation. All right, Shermichael, now I'm really putting you on the spot. Who you with, the administration or the Obamas? Who you with, Shermichael? Say it. You with the Obamas. Go on and say it, Shermichael.
No, look, this is where I'm with. I mean, I feel strongly about, and I think most people are okay, Tavis, with removing people who shouldn't be here legally. But I do think tactics matter. And you and I have talked a lot. You know, I'm a very nuanced kind of guy. Yep. I think operational efficacy matters. And by that, for the audience, what I mean by that is how you go about trying to accomplish an aim is so critical. It's important. You don't just willy-nilly go about doing something regardless of what the results may be, so long as you're quote-unquote accomplishing that aim. I just personally don't think that's the right way to run anything, let alone something this critical, number one. Number two, I don't want the federal government violating people's rights. I'm a conservative, man. This stuff is important to me. You have got to preserve people's rights, whether it's their right to carry, whether it's their right to peacefully assemble. These are things that are protected by the Bill of Rights, by our Constitution, and they must be preserved. Again, to me, this is not a partisan thing. And I feel strongly about this, Tavis. Republican, Democrat, whatever you may be, you have got to preserve the rights that permit us to challenge our government when we believe the government is violating things that are outside of the scope of its rights. And so, again, I don't have to necessarily agree with Mr. Petty or people who are on Mr. Petty's sides. We may view immigration differently. But I will darn surely stand with the right to say these folks have a right to protest, man. That's just important. Again, this isn't a left or right thing for me. This is about preserving the things that are key and critical to our foundation as a society.
Whether you call it operational efficacy, as Shermichael Singleton did, or whether you say that our core values as a nation are increasingly under assault, the Trump folk are wrong, dead wrong. Our remaining moments with Shermichael when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
You can't escape a traffic jam. Know what else you can't escape? seasonal allergies. And you might think you can avoid that coffee stain until... Oh, really? You can't escape a lot of things in life, but you can escape prediabetes. Prediabetes captures 1 in 3 adults. There are usually no signs of prediabetes. In fact, most people don't even know they have it. But with early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Take action by taking the 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. You might not be able to escape having this song stuck in your head, but you can escape prediabetes. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try that Febreze car. Just right, just right, just right, yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
All right, man. I can't talk. Our remaining moments with Shermichael Singleton, Dr. Cornel West coming up the top of the second hour. I want to close with the words of Dr. King here in just a second here. I'll give Shermichael the last word. Shermichael, the administration can't continue to double down on this. What happens as the pressure on them increases? What happens?
I don't think they're going to double down on this.
No. They already are doubling down. You mean they're going to stop doubling down? They already are doubling down.
No. I think they are. I mean, you're already seeing it. Governor Walz, Caitlin, again, I'm just looking at Caitlin Collins' feed here. He just released a statement about his call with Donald Trump, and it's a statement to me that I think is going to lead to de-escalation here. I mean, this is just really getting out of control. Again, I think you got to remove people who are here illegally. I'm not against that, but I think how you go about that really matters. And as it pertains to American citizens, you have got to preserve people's rights, regardless of where they may be on that particular issue. You cannot undermine the bedrock of our society. Otherwise, nothing else matters here. Yeah. We might as well be a kangaroo country doing whatever the heck we want to do, regardless of whatever values we may have.
We look more like.
And I want that.
Yeah, we're looking more and more like a kangaroo country every day, but I digress. Shermichael, thank you for your time. We'll do it again, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Tavis. See you soon.
Likewise. Want to close with Dr. King for all the obvious reasons. Take a listen. You'll understand why.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because They haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. With a mix of heavy snowfall, gusty winds, and freezing rain expected through this afternoon, New York City Mayor Mamdani is urging residents to stay inside. He says the storm is not only bringing snow with it.
It carries temperatures colder than any sustained period this city has experienced for 8 years. For those without shelter, the intense cold can be fatal.
Mamdani said at least 5 New Yorkers have passed away. Barack and Michelle Obama released a joint statement regarding the killing of Alex Preddy. The Obamas said Preddy's death should be a wake-up call to every American. Former President and First Lady said political parties aside, the nation's core values are under assault. And tax season is here. The IRS will start accepting tax returns today. The deadline is April 15th. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The road to the Super Bowl for the Rams ended in Seattle. A shaky performance by the Rams defense was a major factor in the Rams' 31-27 loss in the NFC Championship game. The Rams gave up 346 yards passing and 3 touchdown passes to Seattle quarterback Sam Darnold. Darnold also helped Seattle make 7 of 13 third down conversions. The Rams defense couldn't get off the field when they needed to. It was also a shaky day for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford was 0 for 7 on 3rd and 4th down pass attempts. The Clippers keep winning. They beat Brooklyn 126-89 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Brooklyn's 89 points is the fewest allowed by the Clippers this season. 28 points for Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers are now just 3 games below 500. They are 15-3 since December 20th. The Lakers are at Chicago tonight, 4th game of an 8-game road trip. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580. Let the dogs out! Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter. The controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580. Because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
I remember the signs of springtime. There were birds and music everywhere. Some of us played. Some of us cried, oh yes we did. Can't you see? Oh, can't you see the tears fall from my eyes? And what I I had dreamed of. I thought it was here. Oh, yes, I did. 10 feet tall.
That's a track from Walter Jackson, The Coldest Days of My Life. And I don't think that Dr. West is necessarily using that as a walk-on song because he's in New York, where it may very well be one of the coldest days of his life. We've seen that storm. I just talked to my mother this morning. She's snowed in, can't get out the door, can't get out the driveway. She's in Indiana, but we all saw that storm, of course, just ravaged the East Coast and other parts of the country. But, Doc, I think I'm probably right. That's not what you mean by the coldest days of your life, is it?
Brother, you right on it. You right on it. Brother, the genius of black music, man, speaks to every situation. Cold-blooded murder in Minneapolis. Cold hearts in the gangster White House. Cold attitudes towards what's going on in Gaza, in Tehran, in Caracas, in Haiti. And here comes Walter Jackson, born with polio, one of the deepest rhythm and blues singers to come out of Florida, whose major hits was written by Curtis Mayfield. It's all over his first hit. And this particular song written by another genius named Eugene Record, who will redo the song 2 years later on a Lonely Man album and make that particular version more famous. But Walter Jackson sang it first. And it's good to have the original version and then the cover by the Charlites. But it just gives us some sense of empowerment in such a grim and dark situation, brother.
Yeah. I've received so many messages, and I want to just tell the audience, we are working on this. For Roger and Jay-Z, y'all better hurry up because people keep texting me and emailing me and reaching out to me. We are working on putting together a Cornel West Spotify playlist. I hear the request every week. Where is Dr. West find these songs? Songs you've never heard, songs that resonate with you, songs that speak to the moment that we find ourselves in. I repeat again for Roger and Jay-Z, I'm calling you out on national radio. Y'all got to get that Spotify list together because these Negroes keep asking me, when are you going to get Dr. West a playlist? We want to see his playlist. So we are working on Dr. West having his own Spotify playlist. I will let you know in the coming days, Jay-Z and Faraji, when we get that Spotify playlist together, because he's bringing us some jewels and some gems, and only Cornel West can find, or not even find. He knows. I mean, the music is on the soundtrack of his life, just like it is on the soundtrack of our lives. But he got a deep corpus when it comes to the music that he's been raised with, and the music that's on his heart. And in his head on any given day. And trust me, when I tell you I've learned so much from Dr. West about everything, but even music. I'm a music lover myself, as Dr. West knows, as you know. But I've learned so much about music from Cornel West, and every time he comes on Monday and Thursdays at the top of the second hour, I'm just waiting to see what the play-on song, the walk-on song is going to be. And today, it's The Coldest Days of My Life by Walter Jackson. And so many of us are experiencing, I think, that same sentiment. And I love the way Doc said it, that the black musical experience, we're in Grammy season right now, and there's nothing quite like the black musical experience. Whether or not Curtis Mayfield ever wins a Grammy is irrelevant, isn't it, Doc? It's irrelevant because the music has just touched us in so many ways that we can't even define or describe, Doc.
That's exactly right. Sam Cooke never won one. Curtis Mayfield never won one. Sly Stone never won one. Millie Vanilli won two. Now, what does that say? What does that say? We ain't got nothing against Millie Vanilli, but hey, we ain't waiting for no white mainstream to affirm our genius, our talent, the music that keeps us going, that sustains us, that is constitutive of who we are and integral to our being.
That's right. We ain't got nothing against Millie or Vanilli, but they got two.
That's right.
Curtis Mayfield never got one, but we digress on that particular point. Nothing quite like the black musical tradition, and it's in moments like these, as Doc says all the time, that the music of our people sustains us. And so when we come forward, we're going to get Dr. West's take on what he saw in Minneapolis and the administration doubling down on this. I've got some additional questions for him that I didn't get to Shermichael in the first hour. But we're going to continue this dialogue about the coldest day, the coldest days, plural, that we are experiencing right about now in this place called America. You're listening to Cornel West on Tavis Smiley.
Oh, can't you see it falling, falling, falling like rain? Falling like rain. Oh, it couldn't be much worse down below. Down below. And I remember all the signs of springtime.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live, free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors when you need more comfort for yourself. Use as directed.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
More honesty than you can handle.
More empowerment than you can imagine.
You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornel West. I want to ask Dr. West whether or not he, like some others, sees this moment as an inflection point. It's clear he sees it in the context of the coldest days of our lives. We started with that Walter Jackson song. What a wonderful piece of music. But I wonder, beyond it being cold out here, in all the ways that Doc so eloquently described, I wonder whether he sees this moment as an inflection point or whether he's lived long enough. He's a few years older than I am. So if I've seen so many moments that I thought might be an inflection point that turned out not to be, I want to get Doc's read of history and whether or not he feels this is an inflection point of sorts. Before I do that, here's some sound from Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, who does in fact believe that this is an inflection point.
You're allowed to decide at any point that you're not with this anymore. If you voted for this administration, heck, even if you thought Operation Metro Surge was a good idea, sounded like the thing to do a month ago, you're still allowed to look at what's happening here in Minnesota and say, this isn't what I voted for and this isn't what I want. I ask you not to stand by idly. Speak out, share what you're seeing, and urge others to put politics aside. We're no longer having a political debate, we're having a moral debate. I don't care if you are conservative and you are flying a Donald Trump flag, you're a libertarian, don't tread on me, you're a democratic socialist of America. This is an inflection point, America. If we cannot all agree that the smearing of an American citizen and besmirching everything they stood for and asking us not to believe what we saw, I don't know what else to tell you. This is not, we need to see both sides. This is not, we need to wait for this. This is basic human decency. And at this point in time, I'm just asking, try for a moment to set aside the political side of it and go back and ground in the humanity of this.
He says two things there, Doc, that I want to take your temperature on. I'll let you run free here. One, I noted that he called out the DSA that you've been a member of for decades, Democratic Socialists of America. So I want to get your thoughts about that. He put that in his rundown. But really the point I'm pressing toward is that distinction he makes between the fact that we are no longer in a political debate, we are in a moral debate. I've got my own pushback on that. I know what he meant by that. But this line he tries to draw between a political debate and a moral debate, I know you want some of that, so go on and get it.
Well, this issue, though, of inflection point is a crucial one, and I'm so glad you raised it, though, brother, because it certainly is an inflection point if it leads toward a massive spiritual and moral awakening that generates a social movement that finally puts power and pressure on the gangster Trump administration. You think, for example, in 1955, where our dear sister Claudette Colvin, who just passed, God bless her soul, that she was courageous. She took a risk. She engaged in protests right there in Alabama. It didn't have the same impact as Rosa Parks, who did exactly the same thing. So Rosa Parks' act of protest became an inflection point in the way in which Claudette's did not, even though they were both equally courageous. So we only know in retrospect. Hegel says the owl of Minerva sheds its wings upon the falling of the dust. It's by retrospective thinking that we know an inflection point because we see its effects and its consequences in terms of awakening and social movement. We shall see whether the cold-blooded murders of Sister Renee Good and Brother Alex Pretty generate this kind of awakening and movement. I hope it does.
Yeah. And how do you read Tim Walz's point that this is not a political debate, it's a moral debate?
Well, I mean, coming out of the legacy of Martin and Fannie Lou Hamer, we always begin with the moral and the spiritual, right. But we know that the moral and the spiritual is always inextricably interwoven with the political and the economic and the social. But if, in fact, he's saying we finally reached a point where now it's a moral issue, we say, oh, Lord, have mercy. Welcome to the club. You late. You real late, my brother.
Yeah, I thought that'd be your take. I think that all these debates, as black folk are concerned, we've been in a moral debate since they brought us here unethically and illegally. Right. We've been in a moral debate since 1619. So if your argument now, Governor Walz, is that this is now a moral debate, as Doc said, welcome to the party, man. You're just a little bit late getting here, but we welcome you. Not a problem. But something occurred to me while you were talking, and it occurs to me that I should just say this: that every inflection point does not turn out to be an inflection point. Just think about that for a second. Every point of
through.
Yeah.
Well,
I
can't hear it.
Every point of infliction does not really turn out to be a point of inflection. In other words, you can inflict the harm, But it doesn't mean that moment is going to turn into something that changes the game as we know it, that advances us as a society. I just thought about that again while Doc was talking. So we will see if this point of infliction, the harm that's inflicted on Ms. Good and Mr. Pretty, will this infliction point actually turn into an inflection point? We shall see. But again, I've been around long enough to see this so many times, and didn't really turn into what we thought it was going to be. Right? I digress on that.
That's right.
I mentioned earlier.
That's right.
I mentioned earlier that there are a number of things. I laid out a number of things that could suggest that this is or could be an inflection point, and yet one of those things is the crisis of credibility. And this is nothing new. We've been dealing with this Trump 2.0 for over a year now. But just say a word about the way that the credibility of this administration is being shot through more and more every day by the way they keep showing up. I mean, this really is a crisis. We've talked before about whether or not we are in a constitutional crisis. We may or may not be, but we are certainly now, Doc, in a crisis of credibility, are we not?
Oh, absolutely. But see, the thing is, though, Brother Tavis, the Constitution really doesn't mean too much if you don't have civic virtue and civic courage among your citizens. Mm-hmm. When Learned Hand says that liberty and constitutional rule of law must reside in the hearts of the people, once the hearts of the people no longer is the pillar, then rule of law is just, as Brother Martin said, it's just words on paper don't mean nothing. Mm-hmm. And we know with the Trump administration, international law don't mean nothing. Rule of law doesn't mean nothing. Constitution doesn't mean nothing. So it's going to be a matter of those folk who are still tied into the claims about the Trump administration having legitimacy and credibility. For most of us, we've already seen through all of the superficiality and hypocrisy and mendacity and barbarity. We know it has no credibility. Yeah. But if there's not enough people who can generate a movement, and it's going to be probably more and more folk who have been part of MAGA who see through Trump's barbarity and mendacity and hypocrisy that constitute a crucial element here, because it's like doing slavery, brother. We enslaved black folk, we knew that slavery had no credibility or legitimacy. We just didn't have the power to get it off our back and get it off our children's backs.
Yeah. So what hope do you have? I hear the point you're making. It's a powerful point. But what hope do you really have that MAGA crowd, certainly some of that MAGA crowd, will, how might I put this, see the light or feel the heat in this moment?
Well, we heard it a little bit with Shermichael, Brother Shermichael. He's a brilliant brother, but he's wrong on most of the issues. And he was saying that, he's concerned about the right to carry. He's concerned about the NRA issues. Mm-hmm. If the NRA pulls back and doesn't support Trump, Trump's in trouble. Mm-hmm. If the organization concerned about guns don't support Trump, Trump's in trouble. That's part of the break. And, of course, we saw it earlier with Sister Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of the other folk who turned on Trump when it came to the Epstein file. So there's possibilities of real breaks in the MAGA social base.
Yeah. I've been pondering this for a while now, and I don't know that it ultimately means anything, but let me just put it out there anyway because it's been on my mind. We know that black life in this country doesn't matter, hence the slogan, Black Lives Matter, right? Trying to convince folk to get them to understand that our lives matter as well. So we know what what this country, that is, thinks of black life, black people. And yet what we see happening here are white fellow citizens being gunned down in Minneapolis. And so that even if, the country can't respect, revel in the humanity and the dignity of black people, it does seem to me that the conversation is a bit different when we start talking about white citizens being gunned down in streets. And we do this all the time. I mean, I've done it more times than I can count in the course of my broadcast career. I've heard Dr. West do it. I've heard so many people do it. We're in a situation, we're in a conversation, and what do? We flip the frame. We say, now y'all know if those have been some white folk, ... Or if those have been some black folk, ... We do this all the time. We've done it most recently with regard to the insurrection on January 6th. We all know that if those insurrections, if those folk have been black, there would have been a very different response, and Trump would not have pardoned 1,600 Negroes like he did the good white folk. We just know that.
That's right.
So my question
That's
is,
right.
so my question, Doc, is whether or not, given that we are seeing white fellow citizens being gunned down in the streets by the government, whether or not that changes hearts, changes minds. It seems to be changing the conversation, but does it ultimately change hearts and minds? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, that's the crucial question, though, brother.
Yeah.
Is it the case that the niggerization of white America will lead toward an awakening and a strong movement? We've been niggerized for 400 years, demonized, terrorized, traumatized, told that our God-given dignity has no weight in the country, and therefore we are murdered. We are criminalized. We are brutalized. That's the history of black people in the country in its dominant form. Now that they start killing white brothers and sisters, murdering white brothers, and when you kill them, tell them they're domestic terrorists. Most of our black leaders have been viewed as what?
Domestic terrorists. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we don't know how what the response is going to be on the vanilla side of town, but it is different though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different kind of challenge when you start getting treated like black folk and get niggerized and demonized and murdered and brutalized. Oh, it's a different situation now.
Yeah. I said earlier, you are chronologically gifted. You've been around for a while now, and I wonder whether or not this moment feels any different for you. I don't know that it ultimately will be. But does this moment feel any different from any number of other moments that you could point to in your life and your career, your work and your witness? Does it feel differently at all to you?
Yeah, it does, Brother Tavis. It feels different. That the fascist elements, the fascist treatment of black folk, indigenous peoples, crushing workers and things, has always been there. But it feels different because the fascism is more raw, the hatred is more raw, the greed is more raw. The ugliness is more raw. It's uncut greed, uncut hatred. It's not mediated by nothing. And in that sense, it is new. And it just means the country is sicker. When Martin died, he said it's a sick country and may lead toward fascism. Now, what is it now? Almost 60 years later, we have it. Martin already talked about it. So in that sense, it feels different. I think it is different. But at the same time, we just don't know about history. It's a mystery. People can wake up. People can start fighting more effectively. And you see it in Minneapolis. There's a lot of courageous white brothers and sisters who are, with their backs against the wall, who are coming out fighting. And it's a beautiful thing to see, and we all need to come together. I wish, as you know, we just had a national strike. That's what we've talked about this for 6 months, but we don't have a trade union movement that's worth its salt in terms of reaching that level. But that's one of the few things we have left, civil disobedience. That's all we have left. The courts are dead as a doornail when it comes to really having power against the president, and the Congress is a joke.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
What's left? What do people have left?
No, that's the question I want. That's my extra question for you. I love that phrase, uncut greed and uncut hate. You heard Tim Walz mention DSA. You mentioned the trade union, so I want to close on that note anyway. 90 seconds to go here. What is the mandate right now for progressives? What is the mandate for the left in a moment like this?
The mandate is to be morally consistent and courageous in both telling the truth and organizing in the name of a solidarity that brings people together against fascist rule. And unfortunately, as my dear wife Ainissa puts, we got too much selective rage. People get upset about this rage and can't and justify another and can't have no rage at somebody else's injustice.
Yeah.
People against one form of injustice and want to justify another injustice. We have to have a moral consistency, and at the same time, we have to have a solidarity that allows us to be strong in our organizing and in our mobilizing. We don't have that yet.
Yeah, as you well know, the opposite of selective rage is what Martin said, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Always amazed how all these years later, Martin's prophetic voice still rings as true as ever before. Dr. Cornel West is here every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. Dr. West, love you, man. Thank you for your time. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you, my brother. Stay strong.
Stay strong, you yourself. More Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized. The families who watched their inheritance disappear. The wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. As the winter storm officially sweeps the country, lawmakers are unified on at least one thing: stay at home.
The National Guard is on call, and we're doing everything we can to keep people safe, but we need them to stay at home when at all possible.
That's South Carolina Republican Congressman William Timmons. Timmons said his state has been preparing for days in anticipation of the storm. Parents of Alex Preddy, the 37-year-old VA ICU nurse, was killed Saturday in Minneapolis, called their son a kind-hearted soul. In a statement, they accused the Trump administration of spreading lies about him. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has accused the victim of placing law enforcement in fear of their lives. And Southwest Airlines begins assigned seating tomorrow. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The road to the Super Bowl for the Rams ended in Seattle. A shaky performance by the Rams defense was a major factor in the Rams' 31-27 loss in the NFC Championship game. The Rams gave up 346 yards passing and 3 touchdown passes to Seattle quarterback Sam Darnold. Darnold also helped Seattle make 7 of 13 third down conversions. The Rams defense couldn't get off the field when they needed to. It was also a shaky day for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford was 0 for 7 on 3rd and 4th down pass attempts. The Clippers keep winning. They beat Brooklyn 126-89 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Brooklyn's 89 points is the fewest allowed by the Clippers this season. 28 points for Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers are now just 3 games below 500. They are 15-3 since December 20th. The Lakers are at Chicago tonight, 4th game of an 8-game road trip. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it, and it's just hard on both of us. But, try to understand me more, and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
USC Visions and Voices invites you to the LA premiere of Major, an exciting new dance theater performance exploring the legacy of Majorette dance. Directed by award-winning choreographer Ogemdi Ude, Major combines music and movement to explore what it means to be proudly Black and proudly femme. Join us on Wednesday, February 4th at USC's Bovard Auditorium. Reserve your free ticket now at visionsandvoices.usc.edu. That's visionsandvoices.usc.edu.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Award-winning scientist Dr. Ainissa Ramirez joins us now to honor the life and legacy of the hidden figure, the pioneering African-American mathematician Gladys West, who recently passed away at the age of 95. We just talked to Cornel West. Now we're going to talk about Gladys West, no relation. It was the work of Gladys West, though, that paved the way for the GPS system that you might be using right now as you drive listening to this program. I am pleased to welcome Dr. Ainissa Ramirez back to this program. Dr. Ramirez, how are you today? Good to have you back.
Oh, I'm so delighted to be here. I'm doing well, thank you.
I am excited about this book that's coming later this year. It's called North, South, East, and Gladys West, How a Mathematician Helped Shape GPS. I love the title. North, South, East, and Gladys West, How a Mathematician Helped Shape GPS. The book drops in November 2026, but we'll have her back on later in the year to remind you of why this story is so important. But given that she passed away some days ago at the age of 95, I want to get Dr. Ramirez on right away in advance of the publication of the text to just give us some insight into who Gladys West really was. I'm going to play some sound of Gladys West in her own words here in just a moment. But Dr. Ramirez, start us off. Tell us about who Gladys West really was.
Gladys West was a woman who grew up in rural Virginia, who loved math. Her choices in life were to be a farmer, but she decided that she was going to do something bigger, and so she loved math at a very early age, did very well in school, and then went on to become a mathematician. It all happened at the time where the Navy had opened up, it had desegregated, and so she had an opportunity to work at the Navy. And while she was there, there was a big problem, which was to figure out the shape of the Earth. Now, the shape of the Earth is a critical component for GPS, and she was able to do that with satellites, and I can talk about that more in detail. But because of her work in determining the shape of the Earth, that was a key part of GPS, and so now we know where we're located. So a lot of people call it the global positioning system, but I actually call it the Gladys positioning system.
I love that. I love that. So tell me more. Let's go right now since you raised it. Tell me more about the work that she did, helping us to better understand the shape of the earth. This black woman, no less.
So she joined the Naval Proving Ground, which was in Dahlgren, Virginia. And at the time when she went there, it was recently desegregated. So she was one of 4 black people working in a technical role at that place. So you can imagine how that was. We've seen the scenes from Hidden Figures. She actually experienced that. When she went into rooms, people stopped talking, people didn't really socialize with her. But she knew that if she wanted to be successful, she had to work twice as hard in order to be successful. And so that's what she did. She did fantastic work. And she also was willing to do things that people were not willing to do. At that time, people started just using computers. And at that time, computers were as huge as a room. So most people don't want to operate out of their comfort zone, but she was willing to do that. And with that, she was able to speak to satellites. Satellites had recently been launched. They could look at the shape of the Earth, and then they would send all this data down to the world, to back on Earth. And how are you going to manage all that data? Well, she was able to do it with these computers. And she's the one who wrote early code to tell the computer what to do with all that data and help them figure out what the shape of the Earth was.
What do we know?
When she figured out the shape of the Earth, like I said, that was the key component for GPS, one of the key components.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What do we know about how, as a young black girl in Virginia, she fell in love with math?
Well, she liked order. I got a chance to talk to her, and she really liked order. She liked the structure of it. It was very logical, and she was just looking for her ticket out of the farm. And when her teacher back in high school told her that she was college material, she said, well, I'm just going to make sure I'm the best. And it ends up that her high school had a special scholarship. The top 2 students got a free scholarship to go to Virginia State. It was called Virginia State College at the time. And so she worked so hard to make sure she was number 1. She didn't even want to risk being number 2. She said, I need to work as hard as I can to make sure that I can have a better life. And she knew that math was the way to do that.
We all know the movie Hidden Figures. I just saw Taraji the other day, as a matter of fact, Taraji P. Henson. So we all know the movie Hidden Figures. And yet there are so many hidden figures in black America. And I love the fact that Dr. Ainissa Ramirez is digging these people out of history, the history bins, and bringing their stories to life for us. She was on this program not long ago to talk about her children's book, Spark, Jim West, Electrifying Adventures in Creating the Microphone. Jim West is still living in Baltimore City, but it was a black man who helped create I'll let you explain it. I don't want to misstate this, but there is no microphone in our phones. These miniature microphones that we use today in everything are not possible if it's not for Jim West. I'll get back to Gladys West. Again, they just both happen to be named West. That's funny to me. Both got the last name West. Not related, I assume. They are not related, are they? They're not related?
They're not related.
Yeah.
They're both from Virginia. It's very confusing.
That's funny. Let me pivot for a second. For those who didn't hear the conversation about Jim West and the microphone, a black man, tell me that story right quick, and I'll get back to Gladys West.
Jim West is an incredible innovator. He is 95 years old. He created the microphone that we all use today. 2 billion of those microphones are manufactured every year, and they're based on his innovation. Now, when you think about the lineage of microphones, there are many that have existed, but key names that we might remember. Alexander Graham Bell, he created a microphone. Thomas Edison, he created a microphone. And then there are many other names that we don't know, but the last version of the microphone that we use today was co-created by Jim West. So Jim West is of that lineage. And he's done many things with that microphone, but that microphone, because it can be miniaturized, allowed people to have hearing aids. We now have it on our cell phones. It's in baby monitors, and it's in all kinds of devices. This conversation that we're having right now is made possible by Jim West.
You can say that again. When she was last on this program, as a matter of fact, Jim West called in. He's, again, 95 years young. Living in the Baltimore City area, and it was an honor to have him speak to us on his microphone on this program. But Dr. Ramirez is doing an amazing job of, again, bringing these stories to us. The book, again, about Jim West is called Spark. It's a children's book. I highly recommend it for your kids. Spark, Jim West, Electrifying Adventures in Creating the Microphone. That book is out now. This book that we're talking about today doesn't drop until November of this year. It's called North, South, East, and Gladys West, How a Mathematician Helped Shape Shaped GPS. I just love the way she's bringing these stories of these black hidden figures to life for us. When we come forward, you're going to hear Gladys West, that is, in her own words. We'll do that when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas.
Everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents would send you to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, get me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm 2. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes. And your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs, because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Your Honor. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room, on one stage, at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now, and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
You got to laugh the pain away.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park,
Los Angeles, California.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is the great mathematician Gladys West, whose inventions and work made GPS possible years later. This is her in her own words in a documentary celebrating the 243rd anniversary of the Navy.
When I grew up as a little girl, I was in a country area, rural area, and we made our living by having a farm. I told myself that I did not like being out in the sun and working from sunrise to sunset and all that. So I made good grades in all of my subjects. So it's time to go to college. Well, since you're doing well in all subjects, you can major in math, and we know that you'll be successful. So when I went to college, I majored in math. Graduated after 4 years. I had applied for jobs in the government. I got hired in Darwin in 1956. I came by myself My husband wasn't with me or anything. I was by myself. I would at least put it this way. I didn't know him at that time. At the same time that we were coming to work here, they were also bringing in a large computer. And they hired these mathematicians to learn to work this computer. We hadn't had any computer teaching or knowledge, so we had to master this job that they want us to do. So we had to learn how to program and code for this big computer. My part in the global positioning system would be working more with the orbit over the water. A lot goes into the scientific computation to generate an orbit, which is a database used in GPS. So the different people who did civilian applications learned to use the database that we generated, and that was the foundation that GPS was built on.
Wow, what a great story. And I love hearing it in her own words. The Navy called Gladys West the magnificent Gladys Mae West. That's what they called her, the magnificent Gladys Mae West. It is quite a story, and I love, Dr. Ramirez, that you're spending all your time these days bringing us these hidden treasures. We talked about Jim West a moment ago. Now Gladys West. I am curious as to why and how you are discovering all these brilliant and pioneering Black folk.
Well, I'm a scientist by training as well, and I would have loved as a little girl to know that the things that are around me were made by African Americans. That, you know, the cell phone microphone was made by Jim West, and the GPS that I'm using to get to my location was pioneered by Gladys West, and many other things. Even the blue mailbox that I mail things with, that was patented by an African American man. The ice cream scoop. I mean, I would have had a different exposure, different approach to the world, and so. Since I'm too old for that, I'm trying to make it possible so that the next generation can really see their reflection in the things that are around them.
Yeah. How do you imagine, it's a powerful point, and I take it loud and clear, how do you imagine that your worldview, that your life might have been different, because I'm imagining it for myself, if you had known that all these Black people made so many of these brilliant things that we use every day in our lives?
Well, when I was studying in my undergraduate days, I was one of a few. There were nine African Americans that were studying engineering. And if we had known that we were part of a long legacy of people who had done great things, I don't think we would have felt as isolated. But we just felt like we were the first. And that's in the 90s. And we weren't the first, because Gladys West was doing her work in the 50s, and there were people before her. And the stories we may have heard, like George Washington Carver and Benjamin Banneker, those are all important, but they may not have seemed relevant to our modern day. But to know that GPS and the microphone, something that we do use every day, was made by someone that looked like us, would have had a tremendous impact.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Dr. Ainissa Ramirez, we'll let her say a word about the new book coming later this year. We are celebrating the life and legacy of Gladys West, who passed away days ago at the age of 95, but you wouldn't be using that GPS right now if it wasn't for her work. Her book is called North, South, East, and Gladys West, How a Mathematician Helped Shape GPS. We'll let Dr. Ramirez say a word about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
You can't escape a traffic jam. Know what else you can't escape? Seasonal allergies. And you might think you can avoid that coffee stain until... Oh, really? You can't escape a lot of things in life, but you can escape prediabetes. Prediabetes captures 1 in 3 adults. There are usually no signs of prediabetes. In fact, most people don't even know they have it. But with early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Take action by taking the 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. You might not be able to escape having this song stuck in your head, but you can escape prediabetes. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Ainissa Ramirez, author of the book that comes out later this year called North, South, East, and Gladys West, How a Mathematician Helped Shape GPS. Gladys West said that there were two things that helped her cope with the limitations imposed by racism all those years ago. As a black woman in this sort of rarefied air, a black woman in this rarefied space, two things helped her cope with the limitations imposed by racism then. One, she enjoyed her work, and two, she wanted more black people to get a chance to do it. She enjoyed her work, and she wanted to do her work so well that would provide opportunities, open doors for other black people to get a chance to do it. Somebody said years ago that when and where I enter, the whole race enters with me. When and where I enter. Fair or not, that's how it is. When and where I enter, when and where you enter, the whole race enters with you. And if you put it down, if you kill it, if you do what you need to do, other black folk, other African Americans behind you may very well get an opportunity. But if you get in there and you act a fool and you fail at the task, you might foreclose opportunities for folk who look like you to come behind you. Gladys West understood that, and she loved to work, and as she said, wanted to make sure that other folk, other black folk would come behind her one day and also get a chance to do what she was doing in a pioneering sort of way. Hence the book, North, South, East, and Gladys West. Say a word, Dr. Ramirez, about the book coming out later this year.
The book, North, South, East, and Gladys West, is a children's book. And what it does is it shares the life and work of Gladys West, but it also tells us a little bit about the makings of GPS. It wasn't easy, and Gladys was able to do the hard work to make it possible so that we can know where we are.
Yeah. Obviously, you're not surprised by these stories that you're uncovering, daily as you write these children's books. But how surprised do you think we would be if we really knew how many more African Americans did so many amazing things that they have not as yet been given credit for?
There are so many things that have been created by African Americans that have been hidden, and the stories, and I say hidden because that's not a passive term. Even in uncovering what Gladys West did, some colleagues were reluctant to say that she was involved in GPS. Mm-hmm. So even in hindsight, many years later, when we know that she made an impact, they were not willing to say that. So she did work that was excellent, and she let her work do the talking for her, so that people like myself can find it and tell her story.
It must be a joyful experience, though, to live your life writing these kinds of stories.
I am so honored. I got a chance to speak with Gladys West. I just felt very honored to help instill her legacy because it was so important what she did. So I just feel like a small part of her story, very small part.
For so long, I've been at this for 30 plus years as a broadcaster, and I can't tell you the number of times I have just been chagrined by the fact and been engaged in conversations where somebody expressed the fact that we wish we could see ourselves more in the stuff that we read. Well, things have changed a lot over the last 30 years that I've been a broadcaster, and I see these kinds of books, certainly for children, coming out more and more so they can, in fact, see themselves in the stuff that they read. And Ainissa Ramirez is doing that important work. So the children's book that we talked about earlier, or referenced earlier, is called Spark, Jim West, Electrifying Adventures in Creating the Microphone. Get it for your babies. And this one drops in November of this year. We'll have her back on then, just to remind you. But it's called North, South, East, and Gladys West, How a Mathematician Helped Shape GPS. And so we close this conversation in honor of the brilliant genius Gladys West, who passed away just days ago at the age of 95. But for her, you wouldn't be using that GPS system that you're using likely right about now. Dr. Ramirez, thank you for your time. Thanks for bringing this story to us. I'll talk to you in November or just before, Lord willing.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for the time. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. As the winter storm officially sweeps the country, lawmakers are unified on at least one thing: stay at home.
The National Guard is on call, and we're doing everything we can to keep people safe, but we need them to stay at home when at all possible.
That's South Carolina Republican Congressman William Timmons. Timmons said his state has been preparing for days in anticipation of the storm. Parents of Alex Preddy, the 37-year-old VA ICU nurse, was killed Saturday in Minneapolis, called their son a kind-hearted soul. In a statement, they accused the Trump administration of spreading lies about him. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has accused the victim of placing law enforcement in fear of their lives. And Southwest Airlines begins assigned seating tomorrow. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The road to the Super Bowl for the Rams ended in Seattle. A shaky performance by the Rams defense was a major factor in the Rams' 31-27 loss in the NFC Championship game. The Rams gave up 346 yards passing and 3 touchdown passes to Seattle quarterback Sam Darnold. Darnold also helped Seattle make 7 of 13 third down conversions. The Rams defense couldn't get off the field when they needed to. It was also a shaky day for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford was 0 for 7 on 3rd and 4th down pass attempts. The Clippers keep winning. They beat Brooklyn 126-89 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Brooklyn's 89 points is the fewest allowed by the Clippers this season. 28 points for Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers are now just 3 games below 500. They are 15-3 since December 20th. The Lakers are at Chicago tonight, 4th game of an 8-game road trip. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580. Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter. The controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580. Because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad. You gotta be bold. You gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Herald what your mother said, read the books your father read, trying to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you, others take a different view.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Glad to have you with us in this final hour of our program today. And in this hour, as promised, I've been looking forward to this, a conversation with award-winning science communicator and researcher Beronda L. Montgomery, who takes us inside her new book. It's called When Trees Testify. I said earlier, I love that title, and I do. When Trees Testify. Science, wisdom, history, and America's Black botanical legacy. So, the history of trees in America are also the histories of Black Americans. Pecan trees, or pecan trees if you prefer, were domesticated by an enslaved African named Antoine. Sycamore trees were both a haven and signpost for folk trying to escape enslavement. Poplar trees, as you well know, are associated with lynching, and willow bark has offered the gift of medicine. Just some of the insights in this book, and there's a great deal more I'll do my best to get to as we move through this hour. I know I can't do justice to this book, When Trees Testify, even in a full hour, but I'm delighted to close today's program talking Black history and botanical mastery with Beronda L. Montgomery. Beronda, how are you today? Good to have you on the program.
Hello, Tavis. I'm doing well. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing well and thrilled to be in conversation with you. And I love this. I love this. I love this book. I love the title. I love the frame that you have us in. But let me just start, as this audience knows, with the stuff that always fascinates me, the backstory. How did you come to writing this particular book? Tell me more about you and your backstory and your interest in the subject matter.
So I'm a plant scientist. I've been a professor teaching plant biology and biochemistry for longer than I care to admit, over 20 years now. And come from a family where I'm the only scientist, but we live a family of reciprocity. So there was always this kind of, how am I going to take knowledge back to family in an accessible way? So I started sharing plant stories, trying to bring that knowledge back as expected. But also, the science knowledge that I was getting was a way for me to really connect with my mother and father in a much deeper way, as they were gardeners and my mother had houseplants. So it's been my career to study plants, but also part of living a ethical Black life to bring that knowledge back to community, and also to try to position myself to do the work that only I can do. So the science I do in the laboratory, if I stop doing it, some other people will pick it up. But as a Black woman, few Black women in plant science, I've been asking, how do I use that to do the work that I can uniquely do, which slowly led me to writing about plants for the public from a Black feminist perspective, and ultimately led me to write this, my second book on trees.
Yep. I think you just answered it in part, but I'm going to give you a chance to go a little deeper, given the story you told about your parents, your mom and your dad, and this work connecting you to them. I love the way you put it, an ethical Black life. But why specifically botany for you? Why plant science for you?
So, when I started out as an undergrad, I wasn't even planning to be a science professor. So I had decided when I was 5 years old that I was going to be a lawyer, because I had decided I needed to sue a neighbor for driving recklessly in the neighborhood, endangering kids' life. And my parents would not give me a lawyer. So I said, I'm going to go to law school and become a lawyer for 5-year-olds who need pro bono work.
Yeah.
And in middle school, back when I was in middle school, we did these aptitude tests, and speaking and writing and all of that. And coming from a working class family, law was something that it was to aspire to. But it was in middle school when I got to realize that I really loved and excelled at math and science. And so ultimately, I had thought that I would merge those and become a biological patent lawyer. So as an undergrad, that's what I was planning to do. I was pre-law at Washington University in St. Louis. I was studying biology. But really thinking I was going to take that knowledge into understanding the patents that I would help write. And ultimately, as an undergrad, I did what's known as undergraduate research, where I worked in the lab for a little bit and realized that I could pursue a life as a professor, just following my curiosities. So ultimately, I took several kinds of classes and experiences to decide what area of biology I would focus on. And it was taking a plant physiology class, mainly because it fit my schedule. But then the professor made plants come alive for me in a way that I had always thought they were just sitting there. And as he talked about them, it was clear that they had exciting and interesting lives. And ultimately, it was that as the first kind of pathway towards studying plants for my career.
When we come forward, glad I got you for the hour, I want to ask you how that professor made those plants come to life for you. Put a pin in that. I promise to come back to that. Let me just ask this question first, though. How, when, where, why this title? As I said earlier, I love it. When Trees Testify. Tell me about the title right quick.
So I think a lot about older trees having been talked about in the U.S. as witness trees. Witness is observing, but I come from a black church tradition where we had testimony service. And that's when you brought your testimony forward to share with community.
Come on, yeah. And what church, now you got me curious. I think I know the answer. What church did you grow up in?
I grew up in Pentecostal church.
So did I. When you said testimony service, I knew exactly what you meant. Keep on going. Go on and testify.
Yeah, so I told my son this morning, I said, I'm going to go and testify, have testimony service with Tavis today. So I actually named that this as well.
I love it. We're going to continue this testimony service. I like that. This testimony service with Tavis. The book is called When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History and America's Black Botanical Legacy. So much more to discuss. This is a fascinating book, and there's some great tidbits in this. I'm going to connect this to lynching. She's going to connect it to lynching. We're going to connect it to medicine. We're going to connect it to a community called Blackdom, an all-black homesteading community in the early 1900s that survived for 20 years. We're going to connect this book to the great Jesse Owens. There's a Jesse Owens connection here. So much great stuff in this book called When Trees Testify. So the testimony of Beronda L. Montgomery will continue when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live, free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors when you need more comfort for yourself. Use as directed.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in,
but we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Beronda L. Montgomery. Her book is called When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. Honored to have her on this program. She mentioned that she grew up in a Pentecostal church, as did I, and so we know something about testimony service. And I was thinking when she talked about her professor bringing those plants to life for her, I was thinking, Beronda, about those dry bones in the valley. And somebody said, can these dry bones live? And those bones came back to life. I thought about that as you were telling the story again of this professor bringing these plants to life for you in that classroom. Tell me how your professor did that.
Well, you know, I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the summers were really hot. And he was talking about how every summer he would want to leave, and I could identify with that. But he talked about how plants live their entire life wherever they germinate. And so they are constantly monitoring what's going on around them and using that information to make decisions that allow them to live there their entire life. They can't just flee like we do. Mm-hmm. And so even the dropping of leaves in fall, the turning of leaf colors, when they decide to put out a new leaf in the spring, all of those are their response to understanding where they are, who they are, and what they should be doing. And I started to realize that in a lot of ways, plants have to be more clever than humans because they have to live their entire life. And if we're talking about trees over hundreds of years in a single space, and being able to do that and thrive, resist damage and all of that, they have some amazing behaviors and abilities that I became fascinated with.
Yep. While you're in that moving in that direction, let me just follow you here as I will throughout this hour. So the point you make now brings to mind one of the things that I was so fascinated by when I got inside this text. I learned that trees can, in fact, remember biological events and store memories that translate into certain behavior to increase their survival. Put another way, Beronda Montgomery speculates in this text what interaction with trees, including lynching, did for the memory of those trees and how it impacted their adaptation. Now, that's a mouthful. Beronda, unpack what I just said.
So trees and other plants certainly are capable of memory. And if that's experiencing something, remembering it, and responding to that remembrance in the future, plants and trees show a memory. So trees that have been in the winter, the next spring when they put out their buds, they are doing that in response to remembering that they have come through winter. But some of the remembrances are not just over a season, they're over decades. Mm-hmm. And so I have often wondered, we think about let's see, there are trees that are in horticulture industry. If their branches are bent, they will fruit because they remember that bending in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And it's that kind of knowledge about trees that led me to wonder, do these trees remember having had the strange fruit hung up on them? Because they can remember when wind passes over them. They remember temperature changes. They remember how many hours of sunlight. And I think that that's something that only a Black botanist might think about in that particular way, which takes me back to asking, what is my unique place in this world, thinking about these particular things? And I remember thinking about this when I was standing on a former plantation in South Carolina and just looking at some of the scars on the tree, some of the bends of the branches, and wondering, do these trees remember when they have strange fruit that is hung up on them?
Yeah, you got me. That's an arresting commentary. You got me just pausing there for a second.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier in introducing this conversation with you a number of other trees. I want to just give you a chance to opine on. You heard me say earlier, courtesy of your text, that pecan trees were domesticated by an enslaved African named Antoine. I'll let you comment on that. We'll talk about sycamore trees. We'll talk about poplar trees. We'll talk about willow bark. I'll take them one at a time, though. Let me start with pecan trees. Take it away, please.
Yeah, so pecan trees are particularly important to me because of the connection with my family's land and growing up in the Arkansas Delta region, we would have them all the time. So I became more interested in the biology of pecan trees. And certainly when I was reading a book, All That She Carried by Taya Miles, when she talked about Ashley Sack, this historic relic that was carried by a young woman who had been enslaved and sold away from her mother that had pecans in it, I became very interested in the origin of pecans. And Taya Miles and others talk about this phenomena that I also discuss in When Trees Testify, that the first commercial pecan tree was created from grafting by this enslaved man named Anton. And one of the things I really wanted to pursue in this book was uncovering stories like that and amplifying stories like that. Because if you often ask people about Black botanists that they know, everyone goes to George Washington Carver, and I want his memory to live on. But there are others like Antoine who have had really deep impacts on the U.S. And so his first grafting that was successful, resulting in this centennial variety, is really the basis of the pecan industry to this day in the U.S. And many people, other than those who've encountered these prior tellings by Taya Miles and others, would not know his name. And so it was really a chance to call forth his name in terms of bringing forth this botanical botany, botanical expertise that would have been needed for him to be successful at producing that first commercial variety of pecans.
That's pecan trees. Talk to me then about sycamore trees serving as both a haven and signpost for folk trying to escape enslavement.
Yeah, so sycamore trees serve in that way through two different ways. One of them is that sycamores have a very distinctive bark. So they have some sloughing off of their bark that gives them this kind of light gray ashen color to the trunk that a lot of people use to identify sycamore. And these trees were really prevalent in a lot of areas in the Southeast where people were enslaved. And so seeing them could give them a landmark. They often grow by bodies of water as well, which are really critically important when people are self-liberating and need to pass through that to lose their scent. And so their bark color would allow them to be identified, making them kind of a haven. But also they are very large trees that often their trunk gets hollowed out just by nature of aging. And so they would often become hiding places as well. And I had really revisited this when I was in Rochester, New York, where my son was in college, and we went to a museum there, and they had a story there of two men who had used those sycamore tree in the area to stow away food and clothing over time as they were preparing to self-liberate. So it's both the nature of the distinctive bark that allows you to see them, knowing that they're near the body of water, but also that they often have these really large hollowed out trunks that could be used as a place for hiding as well.
We talked about the memory earlier of trees and plants. I want to talk specifically now, let you talk specifically about poplar trees. They are clearly connected to the legacy of lynching in this country. But talk to me about poplar trees.
Yeah, poplar trees were important to include. I imagine if you ask people if they are going to read a book about African American history and trees, poplar would be one of the species they would think about because of their long association with lynching, documented in the song Strange Fruit. And in the book, I talk less about their role in horticulture and others, but their real association with this lynching. And one of the fascinations, I don't know if fascination is the right word, Tavis, but I am fascinated in a way with how current day Americans want to say, slavery was so long ago, and yet lynching keeps being brought up in our lives. I talk in the book about several times I encountered it in my own kind of educational expertise. And these poplar trees were, because of their abundance, because of their strength, that they were often used. They weren't the only trees used for lynching, but they have a long association with them because of their documentation in certain ways in Strange Fruit and other places. But I just think it brings me such, disgust and cognitive dissonance, the ways we want to discount slavery as our current responsibility, but it keeps being brought up to weaponize and bring fear into people in terms of nooses and other things that occur. I mean, we've heard stories in the last couple of years as our country is going through this current disruptive moment about how lynching continues to be used to terrorize people, yet we don't want to grapple with its history. So the poplar chapter was a way for me to really go deeply into that and connect it to the ways that it continues to affect many of us in our lives today. Was
there something in particular about the poplar tree that made it the tree? I'm putting the word "the" in air quotes. It's radio, you can't see me. Was there something specific about the poplar tree that made it the tree for lynching?
I think it was more about its abundance. So poplar is a tree that grows relatively fast. So if you have land and you wanted to have trees that grow relatively fast or to be used for lumber, they would be planted and grown there, which meant that they were quite abundant in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And often it's the abundance that causes one tree to be used further than the others. But there are documentations of many varieties of trees, oaks and others, being used for lynching. But certainly I believe the ways in which it became documented in our popular memory through song and other kinds of ways help that one to be more deeply associated as a lynching tree than some other species.
Well, when you're lynching folk every day, you need a lot of trees, right? You need a whole lot of trees.
Unfortunately, right.
Yeah, when
That
you're
is
lynching,
very
when you're
true.
lynching people that frequently, but I digress on that. You mentioned bark earlier. I want you to say a word specifically about willow bark, specifically as it relates to the gift of medicine that comes from willow bark.
Yeah, so willow bark has a highly abundant compound that really is the basis of aspirin that's used for pain relief. And so a lot of indigenous people would use the bark, and you could get an extract from the bark and use that to treat. And so willow has a long-standing history of being associated with medicine from that particular regard.
Yeah. We are about to enter February, as you all know,
Yes.
Black History Month. You mentioned one of the names that everybody knows. It comes up at least once a year in Black History Month, George Washington Carver. He is that guy when it comes to black botany. How do you read? And I don't want to color this question any more than this. I'm giving you as much latitude as you need, as much canvas as you need to paint as you will. But why is it, and how is it, and how do you process the fact that the one black botanist that we do know is George Washington Carver? What do I make of that?
I think part of it is we often have singular figures that we point to, right? When we think about civil rights, everyone goes to Martin Luther King Jr., when there are many other names that should come forward.
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
often in the U.S., we want to get, if I can just be honest, white people, we like to find a person who we can point to who wasn't too problematic, who had deep impact. And so we can celebrate and point to people that we can celebrate, but we don't dig deeper to really ask other names. And we do that in a lot of different ways. I mean, we just having come through King, right? Well, did we really celebrate King this year? That's a different question. But I think he did amazing work. I don't want to take away from that. And he did a lot of great work at Tuskegee and other places. And so part of it was his visibility, but the lack of bringing forward other names is a lack of our imagination in imagining that there's more than one figure who we can call upon in a lot of ways.
Let me pivot back to your own upbringing.
Yes.
Because you weave some of your own story, of course, in this book, and I love the way you discuss. I would call it the continued troubled symbolism of cotton.
Yes.
And you know what I'm talking about. So
Yes.
just go ahead and take it and run with it. Yeah.
So I will never, yes, I talk a lot about cotton having a continued kind of storied history in the U.S. because of its great abundance during chattel slavery. But for me, there was a deep personal connection, and I don't think I will ever forget it. I was in Bloomington, Indiana, which I know you have connections with too, Tavis.
Hold
But I
up.
was in
I got to say this right quick since you mentioned Bloomington.
Yes.
Go Hoosiers. Just had to say
Yes.
that national champions. I'm still on that. But go ahead, Beronda. I'm sorry. I had to say
No worries, no worries. So I went to Bloomington after I completed my PhD. I went for a postdoctoral experience. It's got an apprenticeship before you become a professor. So this was my first professional job, and I was so proud that my parents had come to visit, and I was going to take them on a tour of the greenhouse that was connected to the biology building I was working in. And they were loving it. We're looking at all manner of plants. My late father, saw a pineapple growing for the first time, but we got to one room, and my usually happy animated mother looked stricken, and I didn't know what had happened. And she said, "I don't ever need to see that again." And I looked back, and it was a cotton plant that had cotton bolls on it. And it that I realized how deeply impacted she was by time where in Arkansas, cotton still a being crop there. Her education was disrupted. Every year, she and her siblings, my father and their siblings, were pulled out of school early during cotton season to help plant, to help hoe, to help harvest cotton. And so for her, the mere sight of cotton took her back generations to trauma. And I remember she was rubbing her hands because they used to get scarred, and it was as if she was back in that moment. And, when I have looked at cotton grow from seed to full plant as a plant biologist, it's a beautiful plant in a lot of ways. The flowers are gorgeous. The magic of it being able to make cotton is quite astounding to me. And yet I'm always remembering that moment when the mere sight of that plant traumatized my mother, like brought her back her trauma. And so cotton has this real kind of beauty and trauma in it that so many of the trees do as well. And I couldn't write a book, even if the book was about trees, without acknowledging cotton because of this deep history with my own family and the ways in which I've seen it impact their lives.
Yeah. When did your father make his transition? I'm just asking because I'm curious as to how much of your brilliant work he had a chance to see.
Yeah, so my father passed away in October of 2019. So my first book had not even come out, but he had watched my career, my academic career. And I when my father passed, I was a mess because all my siblings know I'm his favorite. I just want to put that on record. But we were so much alike, and I didn't know how to be on the planet without him. So he got to see some of it.
Yeah.
But my first book was dedicated to him because he didn't get to see the books come forward.
Yeah, my mother's listening right now in Indiana, and I know she's giggling right now because I always tease my mother. I said, you just go ahead and admit it. I'm your favorite. Just admit it. I'm your favorite. And so she says you are, but she puts this spin on it, Beronda. She says you are my favorite number one son.
Oh,
and Garney is my favorite number two son, and Mara is my favorite.
She's a smart woman.
Yeah.
Wisdom.
So my father passed away just a year or so ago, and my mother and my father both called me number one. My dad always called me number one, but my mom says I'm her favorite number one son, so as not to offend all the others. But I'm like you, Beronda. She knows I'm her favorite. I digress. More of this conversation when we come forward. The book is called When Trees Testify: Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. You're listening to Beronda L. Montgomery, and I'm glad about it right now on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized. The families who watched their inheritance disappear. The wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. With a mix of heavy snowfall, gusty winds, and freezing rain expected through this afternoon, New York City Mayor Mamdani is urging residents to stay inside. He says the storm is not only bringing snow with it.
It carries temperatures colder than any sustained period this city has experienced for 8 years. For those without shelter, the intense cold can be fatal.
Mamdani said at least 5 New Yorkers have passed away. Barack and Michelle Obama released a joint statement regarding the killing of Alex Preddy. The Obamas said Preddy's death should be a wake-up call to every American. Former President and First Lady said political parties aside, the nation's core values are under assault. And tax season is here. The IRS will start accepting tax returns today. The deadline is April 15th. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The road to the Super Bowl for the Rams ended in Seattle. A shaky performance by the Rams defense was a major factor in the Rams' 31-27 loss in the NFC Championship game. The Rams gave up 346 yards passing and 3 touchdown passes to Seattle quarterback Sam Darnold. Darnold also helped Seattle make 7 of 13 third down conversions. The Rams defense couldn't get off the field when they needed to. It was also a shaky day for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford was 0 for 7 on 3rd and 4th down pass attempts. The Clippers keep winning. They beat Brooklyn 126-89 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. Brooklyn's 89 points is the fewest allowed by the Clippers this season. 28 points for Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers are now just 3 games below 500. They are 15-3 since December 20th. The Lakers are at Chicago tonight, 4th game of an 8-game road trip. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live, free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley in Beronda, Montgomery. She is the brilliant mind behind this amazing text called When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. My producer, Faraji, and Miles, my board op, and I were just laughing a moment ago. You've been doing this for as long as I've done it, for 30-plus years. I've said more times than I can count that I love talking to academicians, nothing against them, but so many of them don't have what I call a usable intellect. It's a beautiful thing when they have a usable intellect and they can take the subject matter and make it come to life, make it relatable, allow us to situate our humanity in the conversation about the work in which they've been engaged in. And so I'm always just relieved when I get a guest on this program who is in a space that is foreign to most of us, but they can make this stuff once again come to life for all the rest of us. And so I'm just thrilled at this conversation. And if you missed the first half of it, check out the podcast when it's posted later tonight. You don't want to miss this conversation in its entirety. I'm on the back half now, but the first half was rich as cream. And so you want to get the podcast later tonight if you missed the opening moments of this particular dialogue. So let me push now to this community called Blackdom that I referenced a moment ago. Tell me about Blackdom.
Yeah, so I love to share that I came to know about Blackdom myself a few years ago after the summer of 2020, after George Floyd was murdered. And then there was this incident in Central Park with Christian Cooper and the white woman, if you remember, he's a birder.
The birder, yeah, sure.
Yes. So after that, Black Birders Week emerged to just acknowledge that there were Black people who bird. And then all of these communities emerged celebrating Black people in other areas. So I was a part of Black Botanist Week, which was celebrating Black people in botany. And one of the co-founders of that shared with me about this town in New Mexico called Blackdom. So Blackdom was a all-Black settlement in very early in 1900s. And it was chosen because there were not yet Jim Crow laws in New Mexico. So some Black people who had lived in Georgia and other parts of the South who had been farming and doing other trades moved to Blackdom and decided that they were going to establish a town there. And I talk about it in the book, chapter of the book on apple trees, because part of what they advertised is that they wanted Black people who could farm because they knew they were going to have to both feed themselves as well as they hoped to use that as to generate some cash through cash cropping. And so some of the first plants that they were able to successfully grow in the desert were apple trees. And they did this so well that they had the apples for themselves, but they also, one of the founders and his son made quite a bit of money farming apples for sale. And so I was really fascinated. There are Black towns across the U.S. That Black people left the South to try to go away from Jim Crow laws. An interesting part, we were early talking about our history in church. The interesting part is a couple of churches served as the place where some white people then started to get Jim Crow after they were being so successful in Blackdom. But it was a very inspirational story to come to know of and to go and visit that site myself. It's no longer really a town there. There's a marker, but I just wanted to go and see what would cause Black people to leave the fertile soils of Georgia and go to this dry, dusty land. But we will move a lot of places in pursuit of our freedom and our ability to live whole lives as humans.
And for you, that decision on their part, the takeaway for you was what?
The takeaway was that we have a lot of skills that we can take to forge a life. We often have to fight to do it. But, agriculture had been this place of unfreedom in terms of chattel slavery, but they were able to take their expertise and explore different places and say, how can we build a life for ourselves and our families founded on the principles we want as a community and using the expertise that we have to do so.
Yeah. What is let me just link these things up if I can. I think I can. What is, to your mind, at least, the story of these trees that are still standing from the antebellum South?
The trees are the stories that they're carrying are complicated. And I think when we look at them, if we choose to look at them and ask what have they witnessed, it allows us to root ourselves in history, a full history of the U.S. And the fact that they have stood and withstood for so long, to me, is reminding me of a family that stood and withstood. I was asked recently, how do I remain hopeful in this current moment? And I think to those trees, right, that have withstood and are still standing. And in some ways, I am the part of my family tree that is still standing. And so hope for me becomes this intergenerational witnessing and testifying of our particular lives. Hope for me is not, hope and bravery are not just these things that you experience in the moment. They can be an intergenerational link. And when I think about these trees that have carried forward their story, I think about my place in the world and coming from a people who were enslaved and survived. I'm not going to be the one to break this intergenerational link of bravery and hope. Like, I refuse for people to look in the history of the Montgomery line and they talk about all the people who survived being enslaved, survived Jim Crow, survived everything, and they got to Beronda and she gave up. That can't happen. And it's also the ways in which I experience these things with my one and only favorite son because he can't also be the one. And so I think the trees, if we choose to, can remind us of what they've withstood and what we've withstood. But in the book, I also talk about the fact that the trees carry the literal breath of our ancestors. Like the carbon dioxide that we exhale is converted to sugars through photosynthesis. That's then used to build these chains that become the foundation of wood. So these trees also have the breath of our ancestors standing there to remind us of their presence, what they endured, but also what they gifted us. And so for me, I can't stand with those trees in any way, but be in awe of the ancestors and to also think about what kind of ancestor I choose to be in the future.
This is getting good. This is getting good. This is getting deep and rich. Again, here we are pushing toward Black History Month, and I love the timing of this conversation. So given what you've just said now, which was absolutely eloquent and beautiful, what does it mean for you at least? What does it mean for us to live, those of us who are here now? What does it mean for us in this moment to be living, as you said earlier, ethical Black lives? What's that mean for us in this moment?
You know, I think a lot about the choices I make on a daily basis, but I also, I'm talking about self, but I always recognize, as Mother Morrison and others have reminded us, when we show up as one, we show up as many. So I'm always thinking about self as one, but self as community. And I think what is a ethical Black life? I see it every day to call out the truth as we see it. So earlier today, someone was responding to this idea that what we're going through in America right now is un-American. And I think an ethical Black life says that this is exactly America.
That's right.
Now, we can decide that this is not the America we want to be, but we can't deny that this is the America that we are and have been. And so I think living a Black ethical life is speaking truth to our existence. It's asking what we're going to do with knowledge and platforms once we get them. I could have continued to live a life just getting awards, being a good academician. But I have always asked, what is this knowledge for? It can't just be for building a CV and getting another award.
That's right.
And so I think living a Black ethical life is asking, what are we doing with the gifts we have? What are we doing with the truth we have? Who are we in conversation with about that? And calling a lie when we see it, celebrating the truth when we see it. So for me, that's how I think about it. And I happen to do that in part through plants. But each of us has something that we can do it through. You're doing it through your journalism and radio show. And I think living a Black ethical life is asking ourselves that, but also asking our community that.
Back to the Pentecostal church, she's preaching now. And it's touching.
Let the church say amen.
Amen. It's touching my soul. I'm about to shout in this studio. Cut a step and let me back this chair up and do my thing. Her name is Beronda L. Montgomery. The book is called When Trees Testify: Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. I'm glad to have her on this program with Tavis testifying. And when we come forward, there's a great Jesse Owens story. I don't want to lose too much time before I get to that. So that when we come forward on this program.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on! And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Drop it! Hey, KBLA delegation, you know what's better than laughing? Laughing while celebrating the legends who made us laugh in the first place. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to present our annual Black History Month luncheon. And this year, we're honoring comedy greats, trailblazers who broke barriers, and funny bones at the same time.
You had to grow up early when we was growing up because your parents would send you to the store to buy. You was too young to buy. I want you to go to the store, get me a fifth of gin and a pack of cigarettes. Mama, I'm 2. They ain't gonna let me have that. Here, take this note. You be a little boy walking down the street with liquor and cigarettes. And your neighbors be going, that's a good little boy right there.
We need a little levity right about now. So we're rolling out the red carpet for comedy royalty. D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Lunel, Dion Cole, Martin Lawrence, and a surprise guest appearance. It's going up Thursday, February 26th in downtown LA at the Grammy Museum. An unforgettable afternoon of stories, celebration, and yes, plenty of laughs. Because let's be real, these legends don't just tell jokes. They have changed the game, opened doors, and made history while making us smile.
You gotta go to child support court. You gotta get there real early in the morning. You see brothers going into court. You see them come out 3 hours later. I can't pay this. Let me talk to you, baby. Please, let me talk to the witness, Your Honor. Let me talk to the witness. Brother be working for 3 weeks, get his check is $43.
This year, for the first time ever, we have set aside a limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon. They are going to go fast, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, if you want a single ticket, or if your company or organization wants to sponsor a table, move swiftly and get to KBLA1580.com right now. All these comedy giants in one room, on one stage, at the same time? Stop it! This event is going to sell out quicker than right now and sooner than at once. KBLA Talk 1580's annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. It's gonna be legendary, just like them.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
You got to laugh the pain away.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
The book is called When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. The author is our guest in this hour, and what a rich conversation it has been. Her name is Beronda L. Montgomery. There's a great story in this book about Jesse Owens. Tell me the story.
Yeah, so in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, Hitler and his people decided that they were going to give oak seedlings to every gold medalist. And, Hitler had hoped that that Olympics was going to show that the Aryans, they were supreme in terms of that. And Jesse Owens went and did what we sometimes do. He showed up and showed out and got 4 gold medals. So he came home with 4 of those oak seedlings, and they were planted in different places. One of them was at the site of the Rhodes High School where he used to practice. And so there are these Olympic oaks, but that one's known as Jesse Owens oak, that really came to stand for a symbol of his excellence as a human and as an athlete. It's interesting because I believe there's documented somewhere that the Hitler and his colleagues wanted to have this living legacy around the world. And so they recognized that long living trees could be that. And this particular one has become associated with really honoring Jesse Owens' great memory.
Yeah. Dr. Cornel West was on this program earlier today, my dear friend and brother, and I tease him all the time. His mother and father are both now deceased, but in their family home where he grew up in Sacramento, California, there are all these amazing photos on the wall, but there's a great picture of Jesse Owens. One day, Jesse Owens came to his house. His brother Cliff was a great track star, went on to run at Berkeley, and somehow Jesse Owens heard about him. He'd won a major prize in a major race, and Jesse Owens was in Sacramento and came by the house to congratulate him. There's a great photo on the wall in the West family home of Jesse Owens standing with their entire family. It's an amazing photo, and so that Jesse Owens story just jumped out at me in reading the text. Let me. You mentioned earlier, my time is getting tight on me. You mentioned earlier the Black Botanist Week, and we talked even earlier than that about George Washington Carver. Just give me a sense of what Black botanists do today. How large is the group? Just give me a frame for me the Black botanist community, if you will.
Yeah, so the great thing about Black Botanist Week is it was organized by a dozen of us, but it really was an outreach to the larger community. It was a social media. We did things on Zoom. So it brought forward people who identified as botanists who were quite large. When we're talking about professional botanists, the numbers are still all too few. I'm a part of a group of Black women in academia, and it's we can count us up. And so the numbers are relatively small in terms of professions. But when you think about botanists as people who love and grow plants, there's a lot of people. There's a great Black land movement right now. I was just watching a documentary, Family Tree, yesterday about tree farmers. And so I think that there has been a resurgence in terms of Black people feeling that they are a part of land, a part of farming and agricultural, and I celebrate that. So the numbers are small, but they are continuing to grow. And we really identified Black botanists as people who love and care for plants. And in that number, there's a great number of us on the world, but professionally, we remain few.
Yeah. There's so many great blurbs on the back of this book, but one of the persons who blurred the book said the following: I learned things about trees and people that made me laugh, cry, and gasp in wonder. And I can say amen to that, speaking of the Pentecostal church. You have the same response when you get this book, When Trees Testify. You'll learn things about trees and people that will make you laugh, cry, and gasp in wonder. The book is called When Trees Testify: Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. I want to close with the exit question for Beronda when we come forward. Here it is. I wonder what happens when we, and this book in part is what happens, but she'll put a finer point on it. What happens when we combine, when we collate spirit and science. Spirit and science. That's at the heart of this book as I see it. We'll let her comment on that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You can't escape a traffic jam. Know what else you can't escape? Seasonal allergies. And you might think you can avoid that coffee stain until... Oh, really? You can't escape a lot of things in life, but you can escape prediabetes. Prediabetes captures 1 in 3 adults. There are usually no signs of prediabetes. In fact, most people don't even know they have it. But with early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Take action by taking the 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. You might not be able to escape having this song stuck in your head, but you can escape prediabetes. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. You may have heard me talk about the new course I'm teaching, The Art of Conversation. Well, it's here, and I'm holding a live, free preview session on January 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Here's why this matters. For almost 40 years, I've made my living having conversations that count. Presidents, activists, artists, people who've changed the world. And I've learned something in the process. Most folk have no idea how to ask a real question, how to listen, how to create a moment. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, hosting a podcast, or just want to connect better, this changes how you show up. It's free, it's live, and I might have a surprise guest joining us. Here's what you do. Go to TavisTalks.com. That's TavisTalks.com. Scan the QR code, click the registration link, and you're in. It's January 26th, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm keeping this intimate. Don't miss it. I'll see you in class.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
He's a paradigm pioneer.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Beronda Montgomery, to whom I am happy to yield the balance of my time, about 3 minutes, it's all hers. The book is called When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. My exit question is simply this, go take it as you will. What happens when we combine, when we can join spirit, black spirit, with science?
You know, I think that is the ultimate experience on the planet. And I think, unfortunately, we think of them as different when, to me, spirit and science are both two sides of the coin of trying to understand the nature of our planet, the nature of our world, and our place in it. And often science does that from observation and reporting. And spirit, we think about experiencing it. But I think the ultimate stewardship of our own lives, our communities, and the world are when we understand that however you understand spirit to be, separating it from science are what gets us into really desperate places in the world. Climate change and other things, in my mind, are because we have separated our understanding of the world from our experience of it. And when you see those things as intertwined, you show up differently in the world. And that's why, for me, I can't imagine a life as a plant scientist that's only about writing about the observations of them without going to a place where I write a book like When Trees Testify, where I'm trying to understand the experience of the trees and the experience of the people that were with the trees. So for me, the answer to so many of our problems is understanding that our artificial separation of spirit from science gets us in a lot of trouble, and that we need to understand that observing the world and experiencing the world are deeply intertwined and can lead us to have a greater care for the world, a greater interest in the world, which makes life better for us individually, but also for us as a community and as a whole global planet.
What does it mean to be doing this kind of groundbreaking work in a moment where there are those who are trying to erase or certainly push back on our stories, our histories, our narratives, the kind of stuff you're bringing to life in this book, When Trees Testify?
It seems like the critical work I have to do at this moment. And I'm particularly thinking about this erasure of memory and history in a unique way because my mother is in the throes of memory loss, right? Biology is erasing her memory. And yet we live in a world where every day we're choosing to turn our back on our memory and our history, and it is not serving us well. So for me, it seems like the critical work to do is to call us to understand that we can ignore history, but when we do that, we're ignoring parts of people. And so we keep trying to revise history while also replaying out the worst parts of it. And that is a nonsensical approach to life. And so I think we have to grapple with our history. And part of that is having people bring it forward to us from different perspectives, and undoubtedly bringing it through the perspectives as trees is unique. But I feel like that's the gift that I have been given at this moment, to honor my own history as well as the history of this United States of America.
Prayers for your precious mother. I am honored to have had you on this program. She is one of the 100 inspiring black scientists in America. After this hour, you understand why. The book is called When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy. Beronda Montgomery, I thought this would be a great conversation. It's even so much more than I hoped or believed it would be. I've enjoyed this immensely. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your witness, and thank you for your time.
It was my honor and privilege. Thank you, Tavis.
Thank you for the opportunity. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for listening to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.